Welcome to a new scary Tuesday, TikTakers. This time we are back with a new creepypasta. One day, the city awoke inundated with eye-catching and colorful posters announcing the arrival of the flamboyant Wood Circus, stopping there as part of their world tour. It would be there for one night only, so it created a real buzz around town. The news quickly spread by word of mouth, and many wanted to see the wonders of such a mysterious event. Strangely, the dusty circus tent was not installed anywhere inside the city, but in an open space in the middle of the dark and inhabited forest, at the outskirts. Probably to give the circus an even more mysterious aura, many people thought. Despite of this, or maybe because of this, hundreds of people went there and got in line at the entrance of the closed gate, impatiently waiting for the show to begin. Soon enough, a dirty and slouching employee dressed in overalls opened the gate and started to collect their money so they could get in. People did what they could to sit in the rusty seats distributed in stands around a dimly lit stage. This scene looked more like a crowded funeral than a circus show. Behind the curtains, a tall and imposing old man dressed in a dress coat observed with a malicious smile how people kept coming inside the tent. He was the master of ceremonies who patiently waited for the stand to fill up. Once the stands were full, he made a motion to his hunched helper and the show began. The master came out of the curtains, ecstatic and with a smile bright like his jacket. He welcomed the public with flamboyance and elegance. No more stunts, no punchlines. He took a bow and made way for the first act. From behind the curtains, the shy and fragile figure of a beautiful girl appeared, who started to sing a happy tune with a perfect voice. Her hair had a pale turquoise color, and she walked slightly, swaying to her sides because of her legs, which were not normal human legs, but goat legs. The contrast between the grace of her singing and her fair limbs was certainly grotesque. When she went back behind the curtains, the public didn't really know how to react. There was a bit of shy clapping here and there, but most people were simply shocked. The master of ceremonies was delighted to see that, and without giving the public a break, he went ahead and introduced the next act. From the backstage, a new and macabre creature appeared. It was a bulky character dressed like a clown, but it had two heads. It was difficult to distinguish their features with so much makeup, but you could see that both faces were very similar. The first head, which looked like a man's head, yelled out of happiness and excitement. Meanwhile, the second head, which looked like a woman's head, was crying out of bitterness. This time, the public was completely frozen in shock. The strange two-headed clown went backstage after finishing the act in the middle of a stony silence. The master of ceremonies, proud and with his chest risen, announced the next act, the star act of the night. Bloody Angel, the cannibal spirit. The public couldn't be more anxious. The curtains opened and a huge iron cage with wheels came onto the stage, pushed by the hunched helper. Inside of it, among the shadows, a young albino girl could be seen. Her skin was pale, her hair was red, and she looked at people around her with repudiation and resentment. The master opened the cage and pulled the girl into the spotlight where the public could see her mouth shut with a muzzle and her hands and feet chained. After seeing her weak and meek appearance, the public was now perplexed. Some couldn't help but laugh. Then the master turned the girl's back to the public, took off her shirt to show off her back, and two weird deformities were hanging from it. Two deformities that kind of looked like wings made of bones. That sight made the laughs stop immediately, and the old master, smiling and with confidence, continued with the act. He removed the girl's muzzle and proceeded to carefully separate her lips with his hands to show her teeth to the public. The teeth were sharp and pointy, like the teeth of a wolf. Whispers of astonishment swept the stands, and the girl felt hundreds of eyes were staring at her, looking at her with both pity and disgust. That brought back to her mind a memory she had buried a long time ago. The memory of her previous life, a perfectly normal life with family, friends, and a happy existence. The flashes in her mind continued, showing her visiting the same circus and getting out before the show was over because she was disgusted with what she was seeing. She also saw a flash of arms grabbing her, dragging her into the darkness, holding and imprisoning her in that damned cage. The next scenes playing in her mind were even more blurry and confusing. Scenes of brutal beatings and humiliations, all done to make her forget who she was and force a new personality into her. The personality of a savage cannibal. She saw flashes of surgeries done on a dirty bed, as well as mutilations done with chemicals to transform her into what she was now. And at the end, she felt how her infinite pain went away, and how it was replaced with an insatiable appetite for human flesh. After those flashes, the cannibal girl acted quickly. She scrambled and pulled with all her might before the master could react, freeing herself from her captor. She then jumped on the old man, furiously biting his face and devouring half of it. The man was still alive, and his screams of agony were drowned by his own blood. The public was now horrified after seeing that terrible and gruesome scene. The girl quickly freed herself from her chains and rushed towards the public, attacking whoever was near her with no mercy. The screams and cries of people running in all directions filled the dusty tent. Some people managed to survive the attack, many of them ending up with deep wounds and even with some of their limbs mutilated. Others were not so lucky and were devoured by the red-haired girl. The master, surprisingly, was one of the few able to escape her clutches. The other circus freaks were also devoured up to the bones by their longtime stage colleague. Once she ended her feast, the albino cannibal simply walked away from that sinister place, leaving behind her a trail of blood on the ground.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, and if you want to see more Draw My Life videos, subscribe to our channel. See you in the next episode!